Lesson 316, Slope, Part 1. I just happened to come across this comic, and this little guy's telling the track stars that you have to rise before you can run, which works perfectly with slope. You always have to do the rise before you do the run. These guys obviously are very tired. Okay, the objectives in this lesson is to use the slope formula to solve problems. Some of the key terms that we will be discussing is hypotenuse, which is the side opposite the right angle in a triangle. We'll be talking about the rise, the run, and of course the slope. So to start off with, we have here the slope of a line indicates whether the line rises to the right, falls to the right, or is horizontal. And the slope of a vertical line, where x1 equals x2, is undefined. So you can see this line right here is going horizontal. So your equation is going to be y equals 3. With this line over here, it's very vertical, and so x is going to equal -2. Your vertical lines, you will always have x equals. The slope of a line or line segment is a number that represents how steep the line is. Every straight line has a slope associated with it. So I thought the best way to talk about this, since it's mainly review for you from Algebra 1 and earlier, the best thing for us to do would be to jump in and start working some problems. Now this says find the slope of each line. And so if I'm doing rise over run, the first thing I always do is draw me a right triangle. Look, that bottom line was a little too long, but right there's my right triangle. Now first thing I do is I look and I say, okay, this is going up from right to left. So if it's going up from right, Miss Poor does not know her directions. Excuse me. Left to right. My husband hates it when he's driving and I tell him to turn left and I really meant right. And this is exactly what just happened. If you're going up from left to right, your slope will be positive. Always. If you're going down left to right, I want to abbreviate that, your slope is going to be negative. So I already know with part A that I have a positive slope, so I don't have to write anything down. Okay, now you're going to count the number of units your rise is, and then you're going to count the number of units for your run. My rise is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how I counted the number of boxes. I didn't count the lines. I've seen students count lines and it's so easy to get it wrong. So I went through and I counted the number of boxes. So here was 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 boxes. And then I come down here and I count my number of boxes. It's going to be 1, 2. So 4 over 2, that will simplify because you say 4 divided by 2 is going to equal 2. So my slope for part A equals 2. And a lot of times, especially when we're working with scale factors and dilations, we like to keep it in a fraction form, so that's how we would write it. Okay, with part B, I've already decided it's going to be negative because it's going down from left to right. And remember, you got to make your triangle. There we go. My rise is going to be 1. So let me, oh, you know what? I ought to put rise over run. I ought to do this a few times until we get perfect. So for my rise, I'm going to have 1. And for my run, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. Looky there. So my slope for this problem is negative 1 over 4. And ta-da, that's it. Okay, now this one says I'm going to have to plot these points, is what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to use the rise over run to find their slope. So if I got a negative 6 with a negative 2, I'm plotting this point right here. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then down 2. Because remember, the negatives tell you that you're going to go to the left or you're going to go down. So for x, I go left. For y, I go down. And this is my x and y here. Oops, that's not a very good x. There we go. So this is 3. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me go ahead and put this here. Negative 6, negative 2. And this down here is 3, negative 5. Now, I'm not going to do too good at drawing a line through these because I'm just not good at drawing these lines. Unless you do it on a calculator or some kind of computer program, you always put arrows on the end of your lines. Okay, so now I've got to figure out my slope. So let me change my pen color so we can better see what's going on here. So I'm going to draw my triangle. Sometimes you may go too far for your triangle, and that's okay. Just like that. But there's my triangle. And remember, I have to do rise over run. So my rise is going to be 1, 2, 3. My run is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now 3 over 9 will reduce, so you say how many times will 3 go into 3? Once. 3 will go into 9 3 times. So that right there is my slope for 1A. Okay, so now for 1B, let me plot these lines. I'm going to do these in a different color as well so I don't get it confused with my previous line. So I got 8 and negative 3, so I mean x to the right 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to put me a little dot there so I'll know. And then down 3. I'm going to go ahead and put 8, negative 3 there. And then negative 6, negative 2. Oh, that's right back here at the same spot. Oh, that's going to be close. Bad line, bad line. You know what? Let me see. I bet I can make a better line. I forgot about my little trick for making a better line. Let me come over here. Change that back to pen. Let me see what I can do. And give me just a moment. Okay, that is better. Look at that, how straight that is. Well, these lines are going to get kind of confusing if I draw it back down in the bottom, so I'm going to go this way. I'm going to draw my triangle. And look here, I'm still doing rise over run. So my rise is 1. And my run is going to be very long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Whew, that was a lot. So, and now look at this also. My line is, even that it's doing it very little, it's going down from left to right. And you know what? I forgot that over here as well. Woo, Miss Poor made a bad mistake. They are both going down from left to right, so they are both negative. And that is something that it's just probably a bad habit of mine. I always end up going back and looking at the lines later when I should be looking at them to begin with about whether they're going up or down. Okay, now that was all fine and good with rise over run, but sometimes we have large numbers that we're having to work with. And it's not convenient to use a graph and do rise over run. So that's when we kick in and we use the slope formula. And if you look right here, they have already written the slope formula out for us. Hold on just a second. There we go. There's the slope formula again. And we're going to go through and just plug in the information that we're given. If you look right up here, they're going to say let x1 and y1 equal 2003 and 4,553. And then they're going to tell us that our slope is 314.3. So what we're going to do is plug that information in. So for m, right here, I'm going to have 314.3, and for, I'm going to put y2 because I don't know what y2 is. Oops, minus sign. This is the slope formula right here just to help remind you. And y1 is 4,553. Now, oh, you know what? Let's read the problem. Refer to the information at the left. If sales of fitness equipment increase at the same rate, what will the total sales be in 2010? Okay, this right here, that 2010 is going to represent our X, I bet. So let's look here. We're going to have this X2 minus X1, which is 2003. Okay, I said that I'm going to let that 2010 be my X2. The reason I know that it's X2 is because this 2003, and they're talking about their sales in years, and so I know that 2003 was a year because we're not to 4,553 yet. And so I'm going to let this X2 down here be that 2010, but first I have to come down here, use my little eraser to get rid of that X2 and get my pen back. So I'm going to write in 2010 there. So now I get to, well, I don't want to do it that way. I'm going to say Y2 minus 4,553 over 7. Oops. Now, let's go ahead and get that 7 out of the denominator. We've done this a few times because we don't like the denominator. Remember, these two guys, those reduce to 1. So I'm going to be left with, I'm going to have to key this in my calculator, 7 times 314.3 gives me 2200.1, which equals Y2 minus that 4,553. So then I'm going to add that 4,553 to both sides. And I'm just going to move my problem up here. I'm going to say Y2 equals 6,753.1. Now the question said, what will be the total sales of 2010? And these are probably in thousands or millions, and that point is just where it's going to be breaking off. So their sales is going to equal this in 2010. Oh, I didn't. That should be a 3. Okay, let's look at this problem. What we have here is it says downloads. In 2004, 200 million songs were legally downloaded from the internet. In 2003, 20 million songs were legally downloaded. And it says if it increases at the same rate, how many songs will be legally downloaded in 2008? Well, first, let's set up our coordinates. We had 200 million in 2004. In 2003, there were 20 million. And in 2008, we're going to call this one Y3 because we don't know that amount yet. So I've got X1, Y1, X2, Y2, and this I'm going to call X3, Y3. Okay, so remember, to calculate your slope, you've got Y2 minus Y1 equals X2 minus X1. So I'm going to start with 2004 and 2003 first. So I have 2003 minus, I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. I have to have the y's up in the numerator. Don't make that mistake. You'll end up with wrong answers. Sorry about that. So I got 20 minus 200 over 2003 minus 2004. See how I just plug those guys in for what they are in the formula. So I end up with a negative 180 over a negative 1, and we know that two negatives make it positive. So now I know my slope. So I'm going to take my slope and I'm going to set it equal, and I'm just changing the 3 to a 2 there, just so that way y'all can see how I'm using the 2008 information. So my Y3 I don't know. My Y1 is still 200. And then I've got for my X3, I have 2008 minus 2004. So that gives me Y3 minus 200 over 4. Okay, so let's look. Here's the problem that we have now. I'm just getting rid of all that middle information. Now we want to multiply both sides by 4 because we don't want to have any denominators. Well, 180 times 4 is going to give me 720. And then on the other side, I end up with Y3 minus 200 because those guys reduce to 1. Then I add 920 to both sides, and I find out that in 2008, 920 million songs will be legally downloaded. And I know I don't have enough room to write all that. Oh, maybe I do. Okay, that's what my answer is going to be. All right, let's move on to our next example. It says if the average cost of a loaf of bread was $1 in 1970 and $3 in 1990, what will be the cost in the year 2015 if the prices continue to rise at a constant rate? Well, what I like to do first is put these guys in an XY situation. So I'm going to have, and I always let my years be X because time is always independent. So in 1970, they were $1. 1990, a loaf of bread was $3. And they want to know what it's going to be in 2015. And again, I'm going to let that be Y3. So first, let's figure out the slope. Oh, X1, Y1, X2, Y2, X3, Y3. Okay, so my slope, I'm going to have Y2 minus Y1, so I'm going to have 3 minus 1 over 1990 minus 1970. Sorry, that's so sloppy. So I have a 2 over 20, which reduces to 1 over 10. So now I know my slope. I can set up my next problem to be y2 minus y3 x2 minus y3 x3. Getting myself all confused. Okay, let me come down this way, it'll be easier. So y2 is 3. I don't know y3. x2 is 1990. x3 is 2015. So that's going to be 3 minus y3. Let me bring down this 110 because we're going to need it here in a minute. And then 1990 minus 2015, that's going to be 15 plus 15. I'm going to have to just put that in my calculator. My brain is not working all of a sudden. 2015 minus 1990, so that's going to be a negative 25. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead. You can either multiply both sides by 10 or you can just cross multiply. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to have negative 25 equals, now remember, you've got to multiply this 10 by everything. You know what, let me go ahead and write that out. 3 minus y3. So I'm going to have negative 25 equals 30 minus 10 y3. I'm going to subtract the 30 from both sides. So I'm going to have negative 55 equals a negative 10y. Then I divide both sides by negative 10. Holy cow. Bread will be $5.50 a loaf in 2015. Let's hope that's not true. Let's only hope. There we go. That was the official answer. Okay, just to summarize, the slope of a line is a number that describes the steepness of the line. The slope of a line is defined as the ratio of the rise of the vertical leg to the run, the horizontal leg. They give you the slope formula. It says lines that rise from the left to right have positive slopes, and lines that fall from left to right have negative slopes. And y'all saw that's Mrs. Poor's weakness for not figuring that out before she finalizes her answer. Okay, you need to read the LMS 316 Slope Part 1 and complete the student guide. Be sure to read those pages in the reference guide and work 1 through 15 odd in your problem set. If you have any problems with those, you need to contact me or attend TOGA before you attempt the 316 quiz. And that's going to be it for this lesson. Thanks for listening.